You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is a place we're entitled to Brad's opinion. Now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, whenever I need a big ratings boost, I get Shandy Stogsdill on the show. It's like, oh, the numbers are dropping a little bit. I need to get Shandy on. Boom!
I will say I never know if you're being sarcastic or you're really trying to be good for my self-esteem.
Both.
Okay.
No.
It's a combo.
No, you get good numbers. You really do. You do for your real estate, and you do for now your school board race and whatnot. So usually the numbers are low when I'm starting to rant about a topic that a lot of people don't have much interest in. So
Yeah,
that's about it. But they have a lot of interest in school board races, and
I'm sure.
I have Ronnie on tomorrow, and that's going to be a big
Oh,
poll.
yeah.
Yeah, and then your opponent Dallas will be on a week from tomorrow. And,
Yes.
And from what I could tell, it's been a pretty cordial race,
So far, so good.
and I don't expect it to change.
I don't either.
Yeah,
No, I think it'll be fun.
that's nice. But I know you've been pretty active on the school board business. You've had a survey we were going to talk about,
Yes.
and you've had some parent meetings, and I know you've been pretty active in soliciting the opinions online for various
Yes.
things. So we'll talk about all those things after we talk about the sponsors who make all this possible.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Go out there and get you a pretty good-sized workout. I mean, I've talked to a couple of CrossFitters before, and they say it's serious. But
Yeah.
it isn't like just, I'll go lift a couple of weights
No.
and go have a pizza. They got a real program, and they got trainers, and they got a regimen fixed for you, and so it isn't just go in there and start flinging it around. So if you're not an experienced CrossFitter, they'll take you from a novice position to all the way to where you want to go. So 317 Southwest Wilshire, go make it happen. Also, our friend over at Stogsdill Group. We're going to talk. I don't want to talk about real estate today, but we're going to have you on talk about real estate in a future date because things have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
What just in 30 seconds or less? How has real estate changed?
The market is good right now. It's healthy. It's not one-sided at this moment, and the rates did go up again, just a tiny bit. But they're hovering around the same mark. So
All righty. So I'm trying to get this to share, and it's always a beating.
okay, I do need to change that that website.
Really?
Yeah, it's okay. Don't go to that website. That's not my website anymore.
What is your new website?
It is. Oh, I'll have to give it to you because
Okay.
it's more difficult because it has my last name in it, and yeah, when I changed brokers, they had me change websites. So
Really? You changed brokers? Okay, well.
that was last year. Yeah.
Okay. I'm still working on this silly thing here, so we'll talk about Otto now.
Okay, let's talk about auto.
Tell them that Otto is there. I saw him last week. I was
Get
having...
rid of it before you there.
What now? Sorry?
What?
I get rid of the website on there.
Oh, thank you so much. Perfect.
Auto.
Auto.
Okay. All right. Now I got this thing working here. But anyway, I was there Friday having one of my B&I meetings, and he comes over and schmoozes, and it cracks me up. It really does because, that staff really does work pretty hard at it. They don't just sit around and text or whatever. And I really appreciate going there because it's always, it's a good experience. And the food's great. And it's kind of like the center of town almost. So there you go.
Yeah. Hey, go by and take a picture with my sign.
Oh, you have a sign at Otto's
I
place.
do.
Good for you. All right. Well, I have a sign now in the yard too. People drive by and stop and say, "Well,
I'm sure they do.
they said Allard's, supporting her. Well, that's my vote right
Uh-huh.
there." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Anyway, thank you, Otto, for all you do. Thank you also to Chris over at Wild Cigar and Culture. I was there about 10 days ago, and it's always a nice experience.
I went there the Friday after the freeze. No, Saturday.
Saturday.
I think I can't remember.
Did
It
you have
was
a
Friday or
cigar or
Saturday.
something?
No, I didn't have a cigar. I was waiting on a table at American Reverie because it was like way backed up. Everybody decided to go out
Yeah.
that night. So
Well, it's a good
I did
place.
have a drink, and it was nice.
It is.
And, yeah.
And you don't come out there smelling like an ashtray. I mean, it's well ventilated. I mean, it has the aroma of a cigar
Yeah,
smoke.
I like cigars though, so
Yeah. I like them every now
like
and
the
then.
smell of 'em.
But I like the bar. I mean, because it's a nice bar. It's not
Yeah.
like, rot gut stuff. It's decent stuff. And it's a
Yes.
nice bar. You're not going to have a bunch of hoodlums and, frat boys in it and stuff like
Right.
that. So thank you, Chris, for what you do for the community. Also, thank you to Tiffany over at the Local Life magazine. Her magazine's out.
yes.
Been out.
She has the real estate one out right now.
Yeah.
Which I didn't make that, but that's okay.
You know, okay.
No, it's
well,
okay.
well, you know, next year, huh? There's always next year.
I gave up overachieving long ago.
That's nice to hear. And thank you for running for school board now. I mean, you're supposed
That's not overachieving. That's just me trying to be there for the community. It's a totally different mindset these days.
Okay, there you go.
When I was a kid, I would have been like, that's going to look great on a resume. Now, these days, I do not do that.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Also, thank you to, come on, you forgot the Southern Gym. Back up. Did you miss one? Anyway, Taylor,
Do this one and come back to something.
Monday.
all right, let's do Hot Works here. All right, I can tell it is a Monday. Hot Works, thank you, Michelle, for all you do also. She's over on 731, right next to Chicken Salad Chick and all that. And, you know, it's a great workout. It's a different kind of workout. Now, I had her on the show about 2 weeks ago, and they talk about how CrossFit and her kind of collaborate almost, you know, because they go and lift all this heavy weight, and then she goes and
They recover there.
yeah, and it's got all these different programs and it's infrared system, and it helps with inflammation, which she's almost like an advocate about getting your inflammation down, because so many health problems are caused by that. And I've learned a lot from her. So thank you, Michelle, for what you do.
Autoimmune diseases are inflammation.
Yeah. There's Southern Jim. All right, go buy yourself some jewelry, guys. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving, and not Thanksgiving. What did I just say?
What?
Tomorrow's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Man, he's skipping way forward. What is happening?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. Poor Robin.
I know it's
It's Thanksgiving.
you know, I'm always thinking ahead. You know, thinking of her. You know,
Robin, just pick yourself up a gift while you're there today.
Yeah,
Put his name on it.
Well, they're not open on Mondays, but they will be open tomorrow on Valentine's Day, and so she's expecting a big crowd of repentant husbands like myself, and you know, I was about to say Happy Rosh Hashanah or
It
Yom
is your
Kippur.
Thanksgiving Day. You
Yeah.
are thankful that you have a wife such as Robin.
There you go. Well done. Anyway, so thank you for all you do, Gayla. It's really is a nice store, and she's about to move downstairs, and it's really going to work out great.
No, I'm excited about that move.
Oh, yeah, we're going to much more inventory and more.
We're going to collaborate for Mother's Day. I'm excited.
Are you?
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, though.
Okay, all right. Well, good. Southern Gym, go by. Also, thank you to Melissa Harmon over at Texas Farm Bureau, 682-804-0534. She'll check out your insurance, see if you, you could save some money. She also, if you're a current customer of hers, she will contact you. Robin's helping her a little bit with that because she's got clients that she needs checking on, and it's one person. So.
Well, and as an agent, you need to be raising your what your house is worth, like what you have insurance on your house for. Because as the market goes up, it costs you more to replace your house. That like, even though you paid $106,000 10 years ago,
really,
if it's worth $350,000 now, it needs to be insured for $350,000.
Well, that's what she did for us.
Yeah.
And also I was able to save a little bit of money there and raise my life insurance premium.
Oh,
Not
nice.
premium, rather, by payout. So I'm worth more than
dead.
alive. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
Robin says, here, have some more cake, or something like
Yeah,
that.
me too. I'm
She
worth
says-
more dead than alive.
Yeah. 682-804-0534. Give her a holler. Also, we got a couple of events. Tomorrow is the last day. Valentine's Day is the last day for the coat drive over at Trinity Chiropractic. So if you go in today or tomorrow with a used coat that's
I
in
keep
decent
forgetting
shape,
about that.
then you need to do it. Got 2 days to do it.
I know. Yeah, I need to do that. Okay.
And you probably have a bunch of coats from when your kids are younger, right?
No, I don't keep things. I donate pretty regularly.
We try
About every
to.
6 months, I get rid of everything.
We went through one of the dressers from Hayden's youth just last week.
Oh my.
We found stuff that were like he was wearing when he's like 5. So we bagged it up.
Yeah.
And
My
sent,
kids have like a bucket of important things. Otherwise, it does not last around my house.
well, we took it to Harvest House, so there you are. But anyway, the coat drive, we're Trinity Chiropractic on Summercrest and Ellsbury. So hustle on over there and get a free examination and whatnot. Also, they're having the fridge fund over at Harvest House, and that goes on to the end of this week. They need $20,000 total to add to what they've collected already to install and purchase refrigeration units.
Oh, okay.
And I hope to have Jennifer on next week sometime.
And that's for the food make?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Jennifer comes on regularly, and right now she's kind of swamped, but I bet at the end of the month we'll have time to visit. And so here it goes. But, they usually get pretty good response when they make a special appeal like this. So let's all get behind this thing, the
They do
fridge
good
fund.
work. I like Jennifer.
Oh, I do too. She's very personable.
Yeah.
Now, as far as you've been doing a parent survey. What were a couple of questions on that survey?
So it was I did a pretty generic survey. I should have written down the exact questions, but it's basically what are your top 3 concerns with Burleson ISD? What are 3 things that you feel like Burleson ISD is doing well? Is your child neurodivergent or not?
You might want to explain that to some people.
So neurodivergency is any child that learns differently.
See, I never heard that term until you told it to me.
It's a pretty new term. I would
Okay.
say in probably the last.
I mean, we never used it when I was in school.
No, I
when
would say
teaching.
probably in the last 5 to maybe 10 years, but
Okay.
streamlined the last probably 3 years.
Okay.
And it's easier to say neurodivergency than say, well, my child has ADHD, or my child's dyslexic, or my child's dysgraphic, or my child's ASD, which is autistic spectrum disorder, which includes Asperger's. Now you don't say Asperger's; it's just ASD.
Well, why doesn't it say Asperger's anymore? Does that become a pejorative of some sort?
I think because Asperger's is specific to a high functioning ASD child, and the spectrum is so wide that sometimes they don't necessarily fit perfectly into the Asperger's diagnosis, but they would. The majority of the things that they do would be considered.
Well, this
Asperger's.
is one reason.
So it's just easier to say ASD.
Yeah. This is one reason I hope you win on the school board, because we need somebody on the board that understands this. If I were on the board right now, I'd have to be educated about what a neurodivergent means now.
Right.
And I'm sure our current board members have been.
Neurodivergency is just an umbrella for kids who learn and think differently. And most people are neurodivergent to some degree, right? It just depends on if you need extra help or you cannot think in a streamlined version of things, right? And like some of us, I'm not necessarily neurodivergent, but some people that are older, like my age, have just learned coping skills throughout life, right? And some of it has been a hard go. And some, still don't realize that they're ADHD and they're still a hot mess every day, right? Because they never really understood exactly how their brain works.
Plus, as you age, like I have, I found myself, I used to be able to like read for an hour straight without even looking up from the book or whatever. Now it's like I take more frequent pauses or whatever. And so I think maybe that's just a function of age and not some sort of neurological
for sure.
disorder.
Aging of the brain is different as well.
Okay, so
and then also I asked, how do you feel like the school is doing with mental health? And then I think that was pretty much it. There were 10 questions, but there were basically concerns, and I wanted them to give me examples. Like it was an essay, not like, are you happy with the education that you're receiving? Or how involved are you? Like, and then also, how many times have you actually spoken to a teacher this year?
You get pretty good response in the survey?
I did. I mean, I have about 60 people who have done it so far. I will continue to put that out there. Obviously, the more people who do it, the better idea we have as to what the district is going through currently. I do ask that you be a parent of either a child who graduated last year, because you still remember that fairly well, or someone who has child or children in the district currently. Just because we need to know what the current problems are, right, or the current concerns. I understand that there are a lot of people who vote who have had kids in the district. And, your voice is important, but these parents have kids currently being educated.
Right. I thought about doing the survey myself, but I don't have kids in the system anymore.
Right. But you could do it as a teacher.
I guess maybe I would.
I'm going to have a teacher survey. So teachers, I have not forgotten you.
Okay.
I want to reach out to teachers. And I think what we're going to find, because I do have a lot of teacher friends, is parents and teachers are not as far removed from each other as they think.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah. And I think that somehow we just have to bridge the gap.
In my career, I almost always got support from the parents. There was maybe a handful of times in my 28 years that, there's some little bit of headbutting going on. But, I hear stories about how tough some parents could be on teachers. I was blessed that most of them I got along with fine, and some were very kind in their comments. Uh, so I bet you'll get some more of that. What was some of the takeaways from the survey, particularly on the? Well, let me just start off the top about the were they satisfied with the quality of education they were getting?
So
their kids were getting.
55% were happy. 23.8% are very happy. So 15.7% were just neutral. They weren't one way or the other. And then you really only had 5%, right about 5% that were unhappy.
What did they express why they were unhappy?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of expressed in the comments as to their concerns why they were unhappy. And a lot of it was accommodations are big. And there was some specific examples. Obviously, I cannot give people specific examples, right?
Of course.
Or they just, it felt more like it was specific to either a teacher or what is happening this current year, and not necessarily an overall of the child's entire education. And I get that, because some years you feel like some years are just a battle.
Yes.
Right?
Well, when my kids are in school, neither one of them needed a lot of extra assistance, but there were times when they did.
Right.
For not just, I'm not talking about accommodations, but just they're through a tough patch.
Yes.
And boy, the teachers could make it either make that tough patch easier or harder.
They could, yeah.
And almost always it made for my kids easier. And I thought I worked with some of the best colleagues, and there was a couple of knuckleheads in there, but most of them, I really thought were some of the best colleagues one could work with. And when I got periods of time I was really been out of shape with the district. What kept me from bolting to another district is my colleagues and also my students, because I taught some really great students, and that was enough to keep me moving forward over the tough times.
Yeah, and I think the great teachers are still here for the kids. It's really the kids that keep them here. It's definitely not all the minutia they have to sort through every day that the state passes down.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get on that when we talk to teachers. But the top 5 concerns, and some of these I'm going to dig a little deeper into. I want to, number one, I want to cross-reference, try my best to cross-reference what schools the majority of this is happening in, because I did ask what campus their kids are in. And every campus was represented in this so far. So it's not like it's just one campus complaining. It's literally every campus has been represented.
Okay, when you talk about complaints, well, even the ones that said they're happy or very happy probably
they still have complaints.
Yeah, right.
Concerns.
And what were they?
Number one is accommodations. Now, here is the interesting thing about accommodations right now. A lot of accommodation issues, specifically this year, are directly related to the curriculum. The curriculum is a direct result of the state.
Yes.
The state is requiring the curriculum. If the district did not take the state's curriculum, they would have lost money. I've talked to several parents who do not understand that. And so, I'm just letting you guys know, the teachers are not happy about the curriculum. The parents are not happy about the curriculum. The district is not happy about the curriculum. The state is the one demanding it. So, that is a problem that can only be serviced by people voting. And I'm just going to be real blunt. Older people vote. Older people do not actually know what's happening in school districts.
I remember a teacher of yours saying, old folks vote, young folks don't. And that's
and
very
if
true.
You want your voice heard, you have to encourage people my age, middle-aged and younger, all the way to 18, to start voting, because your representatives in the state they don't know unless you make your voice heard. And we'll continue to see this problem. But the second one was safety.
Right.
Safety, I'm curious about, because we do have more safety standards this year than ever before in the history
When
of
you
the
say
ISD.
safety, you're talking about physical safety of the students?
Well, that's what I'm curious, because a lot of people just did a broad safety. And I'm wondering, is it the safety of a gunman coming into the school, or is it the safety of other kids attacking your child or verbally, mentally, physically.
I'm going
So I'm going to dig into
yeah,
safety
you
because
ought
that's
to.
pretty broad.
I think it's more the latter, to tell you the truth.
I would think so because bullying is number 3.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is that everyone understands that there's a policy in place.
Mm-hmm.
What they feel is that the policy covers the district legally, but it's not really helping the actual issue.
Well, I can answer a little of that because being a former teacher, I remember when this happened. I can even pinpoint the year 2013 when the Obama administration put out a directive to schools saying that if your discipline policies impact one demographic group more than another,
Right.
then it's by definition a civil rights violation.
Yeah.
Even if it's written as neutrally as possible, and if one subgroup was maybe getting more predominantly punished or suspended or whatever else, then you could be set wide open for civil lawsuits.
Right. So we're it's a CYA situation.
Well, and so but what happened is for the last 3 or 4 years I was there is like we they were so afraid of that they let a lot of things go that in younger days, your tenure there, my tenure there, they would have had a day of ISS, or they would have gotten detention, or they would have gotten, now they get a stink eye maybe, and that's about it, or a stern warning. And people blame the schools, and sometimes it is the school's fault, but also they're operating in an environment in which they can't bring the heavy wood down on them like they did back in the early 80s and 90s.
Right.
The government has made that impossible. Now, when Trump came in, they rescinded that order, and then now Biden has reimposed it.
Okay.
But also, there's another thing about school discipline is like if the parents and the district and everybody got it's this rock solid discipline program that really straightened the kids up, that doesn't exist. It's going to take years.
No, and speaking, I really feel like when we're speaking about bullying, the district policy is going to be broad. It has to be, right? Like we have to think, it's so hard to put on different hats, right? So like I would have to put on an administration hat and then try to like relate that to my parent hat, and it's very difficult. And it's what I really feel like is the underlying issue for bullying is always mental health. It is. And I think that the fact that 69% of the people who took the survey think that the school is not meeting the mental health of the children.
Well, I can't answer for that directly, but I do know, and this has been something since the beginning of my teaching career, high school is hard. It's not just academically harder. That's academically, for some kids, it's easy, some it's hard. But it's just a hard experience to go through because all the changes in hormones and then the peer pressures and then and you talk about bullying. They've been bullying all my career practically.
Well, and bullies have always existed.
Sure, right.
Right. I mean, they have. They've always existed. I think that the difference is that a bully in your generation, a bully in my generation, and a bully in my children's generation, it looks different.
Yes.
Because there's so many avenues.
It's social
media. And it's constant. Yeah. It's like a constant bombardment. It's not just like I'm going to school and this kid is being mean to me. And then I have this reprieve when I get home. There is no reprieve from that.
Here's another, on the other issue about discipline is that a lot of people say we need to have more discipline in the schools. We need to have God back in the schools. Hey, I don't disagree with those statements, but until those things happen at home, it's going to be kind of pointless. We need God in the home. We need discipline at home. And what happens is parents will send their kids totally undisciplined from home, and then we expect them to sit still and pay attention for several hours during the school day, and that just doesn't happen.
Well, and I think that's the issue. I hear two things, and sometimes I feel like there are some people who can talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? Like they're very angry because they don't want. Like when we talk about books and influence and those kind of things, they don't want the school district to have any kind of influence in their kids' lives. That's their job as a parent. And yet, when you talk about discipline and those kind of things, well, why are you not doing more for my kids in that area? And it's like, okay, but, the buck stops really at home.
Right.
Yes, there are some parents who are great parents who have children who are difficult.
Yes. Oh, really? Yes, I have. I'm one in particular I could think of.
And they need a great partnership, right? And I think that that's where the school and the parent have to be in partnership. It cannot be one or the other.
It also helped when I was dealing with a kid that needed a little bit of straightening up that I knew the parent, at least by name.
For sure.
And I could go take the boy out in the hall and say, I'm going to call, Otis or whatever his dad's name was and straighten you out. Okay, Mr. Allard, we don't need to go that far and that kind of stuff. That really
Yes.
but that parent and I, as a teacher, had both made the effort to get to know each other at least, at least by name.
Yes.
He knew who I was, I knew who he was. And that takes effort on both parts.
Well, and I mean, every single year, I would say not in high school because I don't know all of my kids' teachers, but by high school, my kids are pretty much advocate for themselves. They don't really have to fight their battles, rarely. I do sometimes, but it's rare. But when they were younger, I would specifically email the teacher and just say, hey, just letting you know, we are on the same page. I am here to support you in any way possible. The only time I will push up against is if I feel like, something is misunderstood but for the most part, you have complete support in our house.
What? Okay.
I don't put up with cruelty.
No.
But I don't mind teachers being hard on kids as long as they're not cruel.
Assuming you win this race, what would you do about that problem as a board member?
The problem of
bullying and that kind of thing, because we do anti-bullying campaigns, we do kindness matters. We're a city of character, blah blah blah.
Well, it's not something that's going to change overnight.
No, but
and I'm not as one person who can just I'm going to wave my wand and magically make all this go away, right? But I think that it all comes down to I feel like the district is big, right? It's not as small as it was when I was in school, and we kind of knew by name who the trustees were, and I probably went to school with their kids, and at least there was some kind of recognition of okay, yeah, I kind of know them by proxy. But now the districts are really large, and I think that we have to figure out a way to bridge the gap between the administration and the board and parents and teachers, right? And sometimes even bridge the gap between parents and teachers. And I think the only way to do that is conversation.
Well, you're right. It's assuming you win, which I'm going to just say, take that assumption. You're not going to get on there and by June all these problems will be solved.
No.
It might take a long time actually, because I know how the wheels of government work. But one of the advantages you have is you'll still have kids in the system. Yes,
and that is one of the big things that I just want to make clear. And I believe everybody that is currently a trustee, I believe they have our kids' best interests at heart.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yes.
What my concern is that there are nobody currently on the board has a child in the district.
You think that's a prerequisite?
I think there needs to be at least one, if not a few, because we're navigating the district every single day. I do have communication directly from the district. I do have teachers that I'm having to have relationships with every day, right? So that is important. And I'm not saying that a retired teacher is very important too, because they understand the other side in a way that I will never understand.
Well, in my case, I've seen the district more globally, and it has helped my view a bit. But I'm not saying that we don't. There aren't issues that still concern me. But there are some things that you may miss when you're just focused on room 123 and today's lesson and tomorrow's lesson plan. And so I see things from a higher altitude. But one of my personal concerns is the discipline issue. I do know the limits and the handcuffs that our government's putting on it. And another thing is, on a similar note, when they started grading schools and part of that quantification business, that changed things a lot.
Yes, it did.
It changed the whole relationship between teachers and students.
But that just is.
Yeah, I know it is.
There's no way around that.
No, but they changed it from that we want them to pass the test more than even anything else.
Yes.
And people who say we don't teach the test, I taught to an AP test. I mean, sure. So I'm guilty of that too. But what really made it tough is that if Burleson did what I think really would want to do, really ramp up the academic rigor and make it more of a challenge to graduate, state of Texas will drop a hammer on them.
Yeah.
Because, your graduation rate dropped 5 points. That's a big problem. And Jimerson and his crew have to deal with the state of Texas grading them on not just their attendance, but, graduation and how did certain subpopulation groups do on tests and what was your discipline records, and all these things go into a composite score.
Right.
And, you being in the real estate market, I know that people don't maybe do the research, but they do base those decisions on the quality of the schools.
Yeah, I can tell you that Frisco is probably the fastest growing market because their ISD is one of the best in the state.
Right. And same thing with my day was Plano where I went. We were considered like one of the elite districts in the whole state of Texas. And I don't know where they stand now as much, but I bet it's in the top quadrant. But here it's like, if we really wanted to do what the parents wanted to do and what we needed to do for the benefit of the kids,
right,
there'd be some pain involved for the district as a whole.
Well, there's going to be pain.
Yeah.
I think that any time that you are really trying to solve a problem and not just put a Band-Aid on it, there's pain because you're really looking at the wound, right? And not just like, we're going to stick this Band-Aid on until that falls off, and then we'll just put another one on it until that falls off. Like, if you really want to get to the root of the problem, you're going to have to suffer through the pain of it. I mean, that's life.
Well, like in your day when you graduated, the possibility of failing was very present.
Oh, for sure.
And the possibility of not graduating was present. Now, and I'm not saying because teachers are taking the easy way out or any of that crap. I'm saying because the state of Texas penalizes schools to such a degree that sometimes they don't have an option.
That is another thing that I feel like, and I'm making an effort to meet with every current school board member. Just to, number one, I want to know them, right? If I'm going to end up working with them, I want to know them. I want to. Some of them I do know a little bit.
I know you've met with 2 of them. I don't know if we're going to name drop, but you can do that if you want.
I mean, I'll keep them out just so they don't. Just because they didn't tell me not to say it, but I'll just say I'm going to work really hard at meeting with every single one of them. But, the second thing is, like, I just want to ask them, is there a plan for us to advocate for our school district as the board at the state?
Well, I do know that that's happened. I know Stacey Eisner's done that many times.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah. She's a most veteran member, I believe, and very active. And, I meet with her some.
And I think there needs to be better optics on that. Like, I feel like if parents really saw us, hey, we're going to the state today. We're sitting here, we're doing this. If we communicated more as to what we're doing actively to try to, the same thing, like, it's such a hard thing to fix at the state, but I think that when you show that you support parents or you support teachers, when people feel supported or even heard, even when you cannot change the situation, it just creates a better environment for everybody.
Yes. Well, it does. And I do think that a lot of times, I've talked to a lot of board members over the years, and I think a lot of times they feel like, well, geez, we really are trying. But, there's certain things that we can't divulge, or it's a long explanation to divulge, and people just make snap judgments. And you're going to maybe putting yourself in that same position.
No, and I think that's true. But I think if I said, I can't speak on that, and my hands are tied on that. And it's not that I don't want to speak on it. It's that I'm not allowed. And, I just feel like it's just got to be regular communication, consistent communication, whether that is like consistent, making yourself available.
Well, I'm in no way implying that Dallas Owen has these attitudes, but there are people over the years that have had this attitude of, like, they're going to come in with the flaming sword of vengeance and fix everybody's problem. And again, I'm not referring to Dallas at all.
No, I don't think she's.
No, she's not. And
No.
but I didn't want somebody to purposely misconstrue my words and say I'm talking about her. I am not. I'm talking about past candidates who have come in and said, I'm going to just, we're going to, by God makes a difference. And they usually lose, fortunately.
Yeah.
But the point is that it's when you join a board of any kind, you're one vote out of 7.
Yes.
You also have to work as a team.
Yes.
And those executive hearings inside, quiet those meetings that are not open to the public.
Right.
There's a lot of horse trading that has to go on to get to a certain point.
Right.
And anybody goes in there and says, I am going to be rock solid in my opinions, is going to be very ineffective. And I know you're not that way.
No.
I've known you. You're very good at negotiating.
Yeah.
I mean,
my whole job is a negotiation.
But no, but even when you were a student and now known you as a long time as an adult, you're very good at navigating the differences between people. And that's one reason among many I hope you win. But again, I don't want people misconstrued and say Dallas is.
Do we not have any questions?
I got a couple, but I guess they haven't on the screen. I had some beforehand.
Okay, you're asking them.
Well,
already?
yeah, about the discipline and the bullying. I mean,
Okay.
I had a couple message me and say, "Will you ask her about this?" So maybe I'm seeing how many you're listening. We have a few they're listening in real time, and maybe hopefully I got to their questions. I haven't had any questions about the tax rates, and I thought that'd be more of an issue.
I didn't. No one mentioned tax rates to me.
That's interesting. I mean, I thought that was more of an issue.
I think here's the thing about the school taxes.
Mhm.
If you look across the board, we're pretty standard as compared to every other district our size. So I don't know how you cut that down. I mean, it's just, unfortunately, it's just like anything else. The cost of living rises, the cost of education rises, the costs continue to rise, which means that things are going to have to continue to rise. I think that the main issue that I talk to people about is that property tax is the only tax available in the state of Texas, other than the sales tax, which, so you will continue to bear that burden as a property owner.
Well,
because
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
All right. It's from our friend Sarah. She compliments you on how well you've been preparing. She says, I can
thank
tell
you.
you've done a ton of research in preparing to run, which I can vouch for because we've talked a lot off the air and privately about where and what to look at and whatever else. And so she's been well prepared. What is one thing you've learned through this research that BISD is doing that you're excited about? It's exciting to you.
Oh, exciting to me. Well, I think I'm excited because I do think we have a board and an upper admin that does want what's best for our kids. And they want to continue to develop a district that creates more and more and more opportunities for kids who learn differently, have different interests. The opportunity that is there that was not there when I was a kid, it was a very straight education, right? That's exciting to me. And the feedback from parents, they also like that as well. The choices, the variety, the ability to, come out with an associate's degree or
that's a big one.
decide to go into welding or, go into the fire academy. Like there's so many opportunities. And I think that more and more school districts will continue down that line. A bachelor's degree is going to start looking a little different over time. That's my belief. And kind of as it should. I'm not exactly, I still have never just figured out why we spend 2 years doing all the studies that we did in high school again.
Like which ones?
The basics, when you have to do your basics again.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's like, okay, well, we just did all this.
Right.
So
if you get AP, but, I like to think college extended what you'd learn more than anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, there's going to be some kids who, sure, make sure they can do basic math, right? But yeah, that's a whole other subject because that's a secondary education thing and it doesn't really apply to us. But I'm really excited about the things that Burleson's doing. I also think we do have a superintendent who does love our district.
He's had chances to go out here.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't mean just like gossip on the street. I mean, I do know. I don't know how far it went, but I do know his name has been brought up in other districts' superintendent searches. Now, I don't know if Dr. Jimerson looked at it a little bit, a lot of it, none of it, but I do know his name came up outside of our district.
And, there's been talk about how much he gets paid and all of that. That's voted on. That's looked across the state. I am of that mindset of I'm going to assume everyone's doing their best until you prove to me you're not.
Well, here's the thing about superintendent's pay. Where I look at it is that it first of all, you're talking about being in effect a CEO of a pretty good sized corporation. I mean,
Yeah.
BISD is the largest employer in town
Right.
and probably has the largest budget in town, except for maybe the city.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe the city has more employees, but we're talking about a major economic enterprise, and you're not going to get that for $12 an hour. And I think a lot of people that point to him getting paid a lot of money, first of all, that's about the going rate for districts our size, so
Yeah.
we're not overpaying, I don't think.
No.
And he has had chances to go to a couple of districts that would pay more.
Right.
Now, people who point to that as an excess don't seem to have a problem that if the football coach was getting paid more than the average, all right?
Yeah.
Or honestly, I think there are just some people in our community, unfortunately, that want to find something to bellyache about when it comes to the schools.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on them.
Yeah.
I know we as a district have issues, but I think we have the people that are going to work on those issues better than many other districts have. You know, a lot of the districts don't have the quality
Right.
of teachers and administrators we do. And now I knew some administrators that just drove me crazy. And people that know my past with BSD find it ironic because there was a period of time where I definitely was on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that now. And I think people need to understand that or
Yeah.
appreciate it. That doesn't mean we don't have to. We should be able to freely express our opinion. And if we're critical about some aspect of BSD, then bring it. But
Yeah.
and they'll say the same thing. But I think sometimes we get so locked in on us, we don't realize we have a pretty good district.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Thursday, I'm going to have Courtney Peets on, who's head of the health services for BISD and also a former student, as is her husband.
Yeah.
I don't know, Courtney, I mean, she graduated, I think, a couple of years after you did,
What
like
was
2000.
Her maiden name.
Ellis.
I don't know. I would
Yeah.
probably. I'm better. People are younger than me. I'm better with faces.
Remember,
names.
or Eric Peets is her husband. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Okay, well.
Not good. I'll go look her up. I bet I know her.
Yeah, you do.
I just am terrible with names of people. Like,
Well,
for some reason, I was the baby of my family, so everyone older than me, like, I always remembered their names. But when you get younger, if I didn't have a class with you, I'm always like, I know you.
well, she's going to be on, and I haven't seen her in quite some time. But I'm really proud that what she's accomplished with us, and that's an example. We have a good health system, among others. Anyway, I'm going to get back to another aspect of your survey. Did anybody talk about academics as an issue?
No,
Really?
they don't like the curriculum.
Well, but we're talking about the quality of education,
fact-
the appropriate level of
In
education.
fact, they mentioned that was a positive. They felt like we had pretty good rated schools.
Mm-hmm.
And then the culture is a positive. They feel like we have a good culture. Yeah, I mean, really, overall, everyone is pretty happy. I think that they're unhappy about the things that everyone else is unhappy about.
Yeah.
That teachers are unhappy about, that administrators are unhappy about. I think we're all unhappy about the same things. And the only way to make that happen, change, is to have a voice in the state.
Oh, here's the one for Bill Janish. That's a good
yes.
question. All
Okay.
right. You want to read it or shall I? I'll read it. That's my
Okay,
job.
you read it.
That's why I get all the big money. All right. Bill says he's missed the first 20 minutes. We'll forgive you, Bill. And this may have been asked, but it hasn't. I've already read through this. But BSD will eventually need another middle school, another high school, which means at least 2 more campuses with football stadiums. Where do you stand on the athletic facilities and stadiums when we won't know glare on the screen, when we all know many don't want to spend the money on nice stadiums? I personally am a longtime high school football game lover. So basically, the standard everybody goes by is Allen High School's football stadium, $60 million,
Right.
all that. And it's better than a lot of college.
So we did
stuff.
security. I used to own a security company,
Yeah.
and we did security at the Allen High School Stadium when it was being built.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back for several games and had to actually have people walk that underneath the stadium because their fire alarm system was not fixed. And so so yes, I realize what Allen looks like. Allen is a totally different animal than Burleson.
Well, I want to interject right here. I got an old high school friend of
Okay.
mine is watching. Peggy Knutson is her maiden name, and
Uh-huh.
she was a sweet girl. A lot of boyfriends liked her. I mean, she had a lot of guys that they all lined up to the left, to take her out, but she was like, nope, nope, nope. And apparently somebody finally broke through. But no, everybody had a crush on her. But anyway, we both went to the same high school, and we got the same criticism back in Plano when we opened up a stadium that had AstroTurf,
Yes.
artificial turf,
Mhm.
and everybody went crazy.
Mhm.
And it was a pretty nice football stadium. And then people, when we built the one we have now, they had some of the same complaints over here.
Yes.
Burleson ISD Stadium, we still call Elk Stadium though.
Yes. Okay, so my answer on that
Mm.
is I think Burleson's a totally different animal than Allen, so we won't even go on that. Athletic facilities. I mean, I was an athlete. I also was a cheerleader. I also love football, Bill. So, I have mixed feelings on that, mainly because as I love all those things, none of my kids are athletic. I mean, I have a golfer, so I can't say she's not athletic, but I'm saying like that's an individual
can.
sport. It's not, but they're not like hardcore basketball, soccer, the mainstream things. The thing is that realistically, we live in Texas, and football is king and has always been king. So while I think that we need to be conservative on just throwing up giant stadiums for the sake of being the biggest, right, or the best, we also need to realize that good football programs do bring leverage
Meaning,
to school districts.
when you say leverage, what do you mean exactly?
So, like, when you have places like Alito, and they get backers, boosters, right?
Okay, right.
And they will back the district in other ways other than football.
Okay, that is true. That is actually true, because one of the reasons why people were on board, at least the majority were, to build Elk Stadium or BISD Stadium, was because the football program had improved quite a bit in the last decade.
Right.
When I joined BHS in 1990, I mean, we were a laughingstock, and now we do well. But, the guys did their best, but we were outmatched. I don't want to be snotty about it, but we got beat all the time.
Yeah.
But
I also think football does bring communities together.
it does. It
I
does.
mean, it is a way for the majority to have a community of supporters. And
Well, do you have that may be something when you're talking about with your visits with the board members about growing demographics? Is there another? I thought that we'd need another elementary school pretty soon. And, are we going to need one of those? Will we need a third high school? Well, if you count Crossroads, which is a high school, but
well, we have 4 high schools
okay, yeah, with
because of the collegiate high school.
right,
high
right.
School.
But if we're talking about like a traditional high school,
Right.
we're going to need one of those in the next 10 years. How many elementaries is it projected we might need at the current growth, and where are they going to be? And ironically, this came up in another show about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The majority of the need for new schools is going to be in city limits of Burleson, but in Joshua I had ISD. So
Right.
that bizarre zoning issue
Yes.
might play to our favor for a
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
But still, they're growing, and that may be next time we're here we can talk about that. I think the next time we're here, I'd like to talk about potential growth and problems associated with it. I'd like to talk more about the academics, because that's always been a concern of mine, is that teachers and administrators feel pushed and pushed and pushed
Well, they are
from
pushed right now.
standards, from standards.
The curriculum right now is paced, if anybody doesn't know that.
Boy, is it.
And so, like, there's no, and again, I will get more into this when I actually get some surveys, hopefully from teachers, because I'm not a teacher, and I don't want to speak to what they're going through every day in the classroom. I can just tell you, I've spoken to several people, and the loss of autonomy in the classroom is huge.
But here's another thing it also would bring up on the academic side. You could bring it up is how many interruptions we have in the school year. I don't have 9 months.
Right.
I had 7 months and 2 weeks to get kids prepared for a pretty stiff test. And in that 7.5 months, roughly, Christmas, spring break, testing for a full week for tax and or star.
Mm-hmm.
We could take a day off for Drug Awareness Day. We're going
Right.
to take a day off for a special speaker. We're going to take a day for Kindness Matters. We had all these interruptions, and so it was very, very
And that's
difficult.
probably I think the kids probably love it,
Oh,
but it's frustrating for the teachers.
Well, except when the kid, we expect the kids to be prepared for an AP test or a tax test or anything like that, and we have shortened the amount of time. You look at like the third 6 weeks, it's really like 4 weeks, because one of those weeks, first of all, it's shorter anyway, and one of those weeks is exam week, and the week prior to that is dead week, so to speak. We can prepare them for exams. So you really, the time frame.
Right.
In my idolized or idealized, that's the word, idealized word, that's what teachers need the most.
So I have a question for you. Now, this wouldn't be
Yeah.
elementary, but I am curious, and I know that there was a reason why Burleson got away from the block scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you feel about the block scheduling as a teacher?
Mixed.
Okay.
The downside, I'll go with that first, is that the block scheduling wasn't like college, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was like every other day, right?
Right.
So you have a week with kids 3 times a week, the next week with 2.
Right.
Okay. And if a kid missed the Thursday, I wouldn't see him again until Monday.
Yeah, I can
So
see that.
there'd be almost a week.
Yeah.
Last time I saw him was Tuesday. I won't see him until next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And in classes like mine, you can get around it, but classes that are sequential like math and science, it was difficult. Also, as far as keeping kids engaged for 100 and whatever it was, it's about an hour and a half, right? It's about
Yeah, an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's like anywhere from 90 to 100 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You had to pace yourself differently and take breaks every now and then, because
But there's time. There was time to do work in class, though, as I
all right.
recall.
Oh, well, the other side of the coin is, yes,
Yeah.
you could do your labs without having to split them up to the next day, or you could do a more complete lab. You did have time to grind through, Algebra 1 concepts. So it was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
But,
I just enjoyed block way better. I had both in high school. I had 2 years of one, and then 1 year of one way, and then 2 years of the block.
I had probably equal amounts of both, because I started with an everyday. We went to block, and then we went back to everyday, primarily for financial reasons.
Okay.
Because you don't need as many teachers to do every day. And he did 50-minute classes, and so for me, that's enough time. It's not a real big problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, and I'll get to your question in just a second. The point is that if they said, okay, which one do you prefer? For me personally, I preferred every day. But if the studies and everything show that the kids did better with block, then I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But again, the absentee issue is an issue. Because if they miss any Thursday in a regular schedule, I'll see them the next day usually, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had also the situations that the kids are missing because of athletics.
Right.
Every Friday in the spring, you have a third of your school gone.
Right.
And so if I was supposed to see them that day, I won't see them again for another 4 days.
Yeah.
Or 5 days.
And I don't really, I don't have a dog in that hunt. I just was curious, because that was just my personal.
Okay.
I read that, Ann, and I do remember that study. I don't know what the current build out is. So
well,
let me
read it for those who will hear this on the podcast. It says, have you found the build out study done in the 90s and any updates to it? The study indicated that build out we would need 3 high schools. Do you know if any estimate has increased from 3? So basically
3 traditional high schools,
right?
Because that in the 90s there was no collegiate high school on the horizon,
or
even
like
Crossroads.
No.
We had a pregnant high school. I do remember that.
Yeah, New Horizons.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that may be something for the next show. You can look that up.
Okay, I will do some research on that. That's a great question.
Well, I remember the study too, and they said we're going to 3 to 4.
Okay.
But everybody was astounded because at the time it was just one of us, one high school.
Well, I mean, I think that who would have thought Mansfield ISD would look like it does?
Or Frisco. When I grew up, Plano, Frisco.
Yeah, Frisco was like a country town.
It wasn't even that. It was just a map reference. But I know a lot of people were very melancholy, I guess, regretful about when we went to 2 high schools.
Yes.
We're no longer one high school town.
Right. And that's why Allen is so big. You know, they
And
kept it that way.
Duncanville.
Right. They've kept it that way.
And I don't
So they
think that's
didn't
a
have
good
to split
idea.
the town.
Well, you know why they didn't split the town? It had very little to do with academics. It's all about the extracurriculars.
Right.
At Duncanville, you know, football's, they won the state
Yes.
championship, but they're
Right.
the size of bigger than most colleges around here.
Right.
But they also have the largest band. And you think, hey, you know, football runs everything. You ain't running to band
Right.
parents. If you get on
Oh,
the
the
board.
band is. I know how important the
Yeah.
band parents are.
Yeah.
They are some hardcore
Yeah.
boosters.
So are cheerleader parents, I understand.
I don't. My
not for
mom
you.
wasn't.
Your mother's like, oh, you're a cheerleader? That's nice. You
I
know.
mean, she cared, but she didn't have time to do all that.
But I just know,
booster.
I know band parents take it pretty dang seriously. You know,
Yeah.
when I do a class lesson in my DBU class, Hill class, about parent groups acting in a pluralist manner, as they say, to compete for scarce resources.
Yes.
Okay. And I say, which parent group do you think it gets the most attention? And they all guess football.
Yeah.
The first one in BSD is special ed, and that's because they have the law on their side.
Yes.
They're not there to make friends either.
Right.
Then I say, okay, who's number 2? Oh, football. No, band.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And performing arts as a whole. And then you get to sports and they say, okay, now it's football. So no, girls sports,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, some
So-
of that is because boys football, boys sports in general tends to get the most funding naturally.
And they also bring in the most revenue, they'll tell you.
I know, but so you know, people on the
I know.
on the margins have
Yeah.
had to fight those battles.
Yeah. Yeah. I just remember.
They're very practiced at that battle.
Yeah. And I learned
Yeah.
very quickly that cheerleading is a sport.
Yes, it is.
So,
It is.
well, we're making how button up against time. I always enjoy
Well, I
conversations.
hope, Bill, I hope I answered your question. I'm, you can ask me that on my page too, and I'll have a minute to actually think through exactly what I want to say about that.
So when do you want to do this again?
I mean, I'm game.
All right. Let me put real quickly the March calendar.
Okay.
Just so, because I've already messed up a calendar once earlier this session. Okay. Come on, Google, move. Just so slow. Anyway, I'm trying to find the dates here, and okay, here we go. The first day of March is a Wednesday. I usually give that for Gabrina Daniels. Is
Okay.
well, she's on the 2nd. And the 7th is the mayor on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to get other candidates. You know, I've promised Larry Scott I'd have him on again at his convenience. So I'm pretty wide open in March.
You just tell me when to be here. I will come.
You like Monday, Tuesday, or Thursdays?
I kind of like Mondays.
Monday. Okay. How about the 20th?
Okay.
Okay.
That works.
Yeah. That's right after spring break. So,
Oh, that's perfect.
yeah, because prior to that, you might be busy with the youngins.
I doubt it.
You don't think so? Okay. All right. So we'll remind each other then. But
I mean, we don't usually travel on spring break because everybody else is traveling.
yeah.
So
Well, and
yeah.
like I've mentioned earlier, we'll have Dallas on next week, and I'll probably ask for her second show.
Yeah.
And because y'all both have been really good sports, so to speak. And
Right.
like, oh, you do what you got to do. That's fine.
And I will say, Dallas and I probably have a lot of similarities in the way that we think about the district. I mean, I'm not going to speak for her, but I think my main thing is that if she's elected, then nobody on the school district board would continue to have kids in the district.
That's not unimportant.
I mean,
No, she has had 3 sons graduate. I taught all 3 of them, very fine young men.
right, but
and,
that was
you know, Well,
it's been a minute.
I'll ask her that question, and what I plan to ask her. I'm gonna let her know what I'm gonna ask advance, kind of like I do with you, where
Right.
like I did with Ronnie, I do with Mr. Fletcher.
Yeah.
I am going to ask about her connections with the school district.
I think it can be okay. You just have to be that much more diligent as to keeping your hand on the pulse of the district. Because when you are removed from it, you naturally don't gravitate to, oh, what are the schools doing?
I do, but that's because
But you're a teacher.
Yeah, retiree, right?
Right.
And I had kids up until 2013.
Right.
But, and this show keeps me more informed.
Right.
So there you go. But, you know, I didn't want to also be one of those parents that or BSD employees that bailed out and didn't care anymore about their district. I do care about what happens to this community in this district. And so,
Right.
And sometimes they both drive me a little crazy. But there you are. That's the fun. All right. Anyway, I'll be asking her about her main goals and her main objectives as a board member. The questions I've been asking you, and I look forward to her answers.
Me too.
And so tomorrow I have Ronnie Johnson on, council member, mayor candidate. You definitely want to hear that.
Yes.
And then, like I said, Courtney Peets with the health services for BISD.
Nice.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, anytime.
Share this with your friends and neighbors. Let's have some fun. And
Share that survey too, please.
You betcha. And we'll see you tomorrow.